He used to drive me crazy. Not that he wasn't a good coach. We all know he's a Hall of Famer. But the teams were always loose. And then I've come to a point with Mike Tomlin, because I'm a curious guy. I want to get better and smarter, that the stuff that Mike Tomlin controls is never the loose stuff. It's always the offensive stuff, which tells me it's Big Ben. And because every year, the Steelers develop defensive play. I never look at the defensive stats and think, they are underachieving. It's Pittsburgh's offensive stats. And Mike Tomlin's a defensive coach, like a Tony Dungy or a Bill Belichick. You hire a coordinator, and you kind of let them take it. And so Mike Tomlin is so good. John Gruden and Tomlin are so good interviewing. Everything's in 9-second sound bites. Everything is quotable. And he is getting tired of this epidemic of dropped passes with the Steelers. It's been so bad for the last month, and Tomlin talked about it.
They can catch the ball or they can get replaced by those that will catch it, and it's just as simple as that. Like I've often said, man, I expect guys to make routine plays routinely. And when there's a pattern of that not happening, then we got to look at, who we're throwing the ball to. The coaching of catching the football for those who are employed to do it at this level is not something that I got a lot of patience for.
It's so good. So here's the thing. Pittsburgh's like, like our football team. No, your offense drives me crazy. The playoffs are all about details. They're not about the most talent. New England wouldn't be a dynasty if it was about talent. It's not about talent. Pittsburgh's had more talent than New England most of the last 20 years. But they are first in the NFL in drop passes, and they're near the bottom in yards per carry, which is another efficiency stat. Yards per carry doesn't mean you have the best backs. What it means is your blocking techniques can hold people for 4.2 yards a carry. So, once again, Pittsburgh's issues are on the offensive side. They drop too many passes, and their yards per carry stinks. I know their offensive line's not bad, and I don't blame Tomlin for this. So this is why when I watch Pittsburgh, I see a team that can't run and drops the ball, and they're not buttoned up. There's been the Saints and the Patriots are always buttoned up. Now, they lack components. New Orleans doesn't throw the ball over the top. New England, outside of the Randy Moss years, has never been terribly dynamic on the outside. But I always feel they're buttoned up. Once again with Pittsburgh, I feel like offensively, you're going to play a Kansas City that does all the little things well, or a New Orleans that does the things well. If you got to a Super Bowl and Pittsburgh's talented but doesn't do the little things well. And so they just, and I used to really bag on Tomlin about this, but the more I inspect it, it is mostly offensive side of the ball underachieving. And I like the way he addressed it. By the way, the Carson Wentz topic is fascinating. So Nick Wright was on. He just mentioned this, and he's right. He said there's a perfect place for Wentz to go. It's the Colts. It is the place to go because they're paying Phillip Rivers $25 million a year, Jacoby Brissett $21, the backup. So it's $46 million. You'd save $10 million getting Wentz, right? And they're pretty much a young roster. The other thing is people will think, well, that is cost prohibitive. No, it's not. What's cost prohibitive is Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett making 46. If Wentz goes back and works as well as he did with Frank Reich earlier, that's market average. The other thing we do, we know, you and I know this, not only in football but life, environment matters. Leonard Williams was traded from the Jets to the Giants. He is a significantly better player, same house, goes to the same stadium. He's a better player with the Giants than the Jets. Why? Coaching and culture. Ryan Tannehill in Miami to Tennessee. It's like a different player. Last year he was like a Pro Bowler at times. Why? Different culture. I wrote somebody else down today that made me think of that. There's another player somewhere. Oh, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Miami couldn't figure out where to use him. Pittsburgh brings him in. The first game they had him, he had like a pick six. So Minkah, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Ryan Tannehill. We know that Wentz, right now in Philadelphia, he doesn't connect with his coach. He doesn't connect with his coordinator. He's a small town kid in an angry Northeast city that's loud and outspoken. It doesn't work. So just change the environment. Leonard Williams to the Giants. Make a Patrick to the Steelers. Ryan Tannehill to the Titans. Carson Wentz. It's not a bloated contract with that offensive line, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, that GM and that coach. If he works, $35 million is exactly what you'd pay a top 12 quarterback in the NFL. Joel Klatt, going to bust my chops, I imagine. Hour 2, live in L.A. It's The Herd. So Joy and I disagree on this. You're a very sympathetic person. I'm sure you'll take the side of Carson Wentz. Where do you land on this one, Nixter?
Well, quickly, just to back up Joy on something, she absolutely will take a trip and tell no one. She is even known to take trips all the way to New York City and then tell my wife she's in town and not drop her old buddy Nick Wright a note. Like we didn't get hired by FS1 together, work together. I find out third hand she's 4 blocks away, but that's neither here nor there. Now on Wentz, here's the thing. I do feel badly for him. I do, because I have a soft heart and I'm a kinder person than you, Colin.
Yeah.
But Philly's got one move here. And you know who can help him? Our old buddy Colin Cowherd. Because their one move is to trade him to the Colts this offseason.
It makes sense.
The Colts got a quarterback who's almost 40. The only time Carson Wentz has been great was when Frank Reich was calling the plays.
True.
The Colts are going to be too good to draft a quarterback. They obviously don't love Jacoby. They have a great offensive line, a very good defense, a good running game, all the things you would want to help support Wentz, because Philly, they obviously hope Hurts is good, right? So if Hurts is good, you can't then bench him next year. You can't cut Carson because that's $60 million. And trading him, yes, if you trade him, it's a $34 million cap hit. But it's a $35 million cap hit if you do nothing. So at least you'd be ripping the Band-Aid off. Now, would they get anything in return? No. Would they maybe even have to attach their own draft pick, like a 4th rounder, to go along with Carson? Possibly. But then at least you can turn the page. So I think Colin Cowherd needs to call Chris Ballard and start singing the praises of Carson Wentz about how he could be good, because I know you're a Carson Wentz guy. So I feel like that you can help be the,
bridge,
the lubricant to make this happen.
Well, I will
say
this. I think you make a lot of sense. People forget they're paying Phillip Rivers $25 million and Jacoby Brissett $20. So right now the Colts have the highest quarterback payroll in the NFL, and both those guys are on one-year deals. So I think the Colts is a perfect fit with Frank Reich. So let me go to this. So I said yesterday is that it used to be 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you didn't hear everybody's opinion. Social media has changed that. And to keep your sanity in life, you just have to mute.
Yeah, I think that you're 100% right on almost all of this with the Cowboys. I think now I picked them to go to the Super Bowl before the year. So I obviously, for me, this is Monday morning quarterbacking. I was way wrong on them. But you said it earlier, Colin. The worst thing you can do in this league is pay good players or average players like stars. It's why Philly is in such a tough spot with Wentz. It's the exact problem for the Cowboys. You showed the Chiefs, the Chiefs' highest paid guys. One guy is underachieving, Frank Clark.
Yeah.
And he finished every single playoff game they had last year. The last play of the game, Frank Clark got a sack to ice the game, so he's got a grace period here to get back into it. You cannot have a bunch of guys paid like all pros who are fringe starters or just above average players. So what's the path? I think it is, assuming they're bringing back Dak, trading whatever pick they have for multiple picks to try to restock that way, because they got some bad contracts. I mean, Zeke's extension, I think, goes for like another 4 years after this one.
Yes.
Does he look like a top 5 back in the league?
No.
And so, I mean, they rushed to pay Jalen Smith. They've just paid a lot of guys too early and far too much. So, yeah, I think you're right on that, which would be a good place for us to end. But I'm going to hijack this for a moment because I've conspired with your producers. The greatest poker player ever is a man named Doyle Brunson. He's also known to be a great gambler. He had a very interesting tweet yesterday. Show it to America, please, wonderful Herd producer staff. Doyle says to me, yep, Nick, I tape your show and Colin Cowherd's show. That was a spelling error. Watch it every day. Bet a lot of money on your picks. That's to me. much better than this year's Blazing 5 from Colin. DM your special picks to me. You see that, America? That's me elbowing Colin Cowherd off his own corner. And Doyle Brunson, Texas Dolly, Poker Super System, 2-time World Series main event champion, is co-signing it. So when the pandemic's over, Doyle, if you're watching, I'm flying to Vegas. Colin's going to arrange it. I'm going to play in one of these poker games you play in. That might cost me a lot of money, but it's no problem because Doyle and myself are bathing ourselves in our riches from all our football picks this year.
Whatever.
So that's all. I just wanted to put that up there. How great is that?
It was
Doyle Brunson.
I know. I saw it. And, you never spare an opportunity to be really obnoxious to your mentor and friend. I was really